All right, welcome everybody to our today's webinar, Women in Process Mining, with our topic Research in Process Mining. My name is Gabriela Gallic. I'm one of the co-founders of Women in Process Mining, and today's guest is Professor Dr. Agnes Koschmider, professor at the University of Bayreuth. Welcome, Agnes.
Thanks for being here, and welcome also from my side.
Great, thank you. Yeah, before we start today with the introduction of Agnes, and then we will basically go through her career in research and talk about the latest trends in research and process mining. We will have the first 30 minutes a great discussion between Agnes and myself, and then you are at the end, you're able to ask some questions. If you have questions in between, please feel free to use the chat or questions functions, and then we can answer them at the end of the call. The second part of this webinar today is our networking session at the end, where you have time or the possibility to get to know each other and also get into the discussion and talk about specific topics we heard about today. All right, perfect. So before we start, I would like to introduce Agnes, first of all, to our community. So Professor Dr. Agnes Koschmider is a leading researcher in business informatics and process analytics at the University of Bayreuth. For those who don't know the University of Bayreuth, it's located in Bavaria in Germany. Her work focuses basically on data-driven process analysis, AI integration, and privacy-preserving methodologies. Professor Agnes has significantly, of course, contributed to the fields of process mining with over 100 publications in top-tier journals and business process management. And before she became a professor at the University of Bayreuth, she held a position at the University of Kiel and the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, also known as the KIT. Last but not least, Agnes is a recipient of the Wolfgang Herrmann Prize, and she was named Junior Fellow of the German Society of Computer Science in 2023. Remarkable career, Agnes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome again.
Many thanks for the kind introduction. I'm really very happy to be here. And also that was very funny to hear the song because when I was on to 30 or 40, I listened to this song like in a vinyl record. Yeah, so maybe some of you don't remember that before, let's say some fancy smartphone issues, there was some conventional recordings, yeah, like vinyl. And that was, I think, my first vinyl record that I bought. Yes, and that
Oh,
was,
wow.
yes,
Yeah.
you too.
Nice. Great choice, definitely. Do you still have the record?
Somewhere it should be, but yeah, somewhere. But now I have it also electronically.
Sure, of course.
Digital.
All right, perfect. So before we would like to start with a little bit to get to know you, Agnes. So we would like to dive into your background of process mining. So we would like to know basically, or can you please share with the community basically, how did you first start with process mining? How has this evolved during your career? And what basically sparked your interest in process mining?
Yes, so process mining, I would say, evolved around 2007, 2008. So the alpha algorithm has been suggested 2004, but before I was, let's say, more in a traditional BPM approach. That was conventional process modeling. So I made an internship that was in 2001, and my task was to design a business process based on Excel sheets. And I can pretty remember I put all the Excel sheets, I printed them out, yeah, put them on the floor, and then I had to design really business processes, yeah, completely crazy. And then I finally ended up with a process model. And then I can remember, so somebody completely edited my process model, and I thought, why? So why is your solution better than my solution? Yeah, and so that was, I would say, for a long period of time, the approach that we designed the processes manually, so we hadn't any digital sources, like event sources. And then I was 2007, or maybe that was 2008. I was in the group of Will van der Als in Eindhoven for a half of year. And then, of course, process mining spread around, and there were some startup companies where Disco evolved. And then yes, tried, or I started working with this topic. And then, of course, that was 2011 that Celonis published, or they had their project with Siemens. And then, yeah, process mining became somehow commercial. So you see, let's say, from the first moment on board. Yeah, so I know that there was a world before process mining that was really traditional, conventional modeling. And there are still a lot of approaches or use cases where when you do not have any sources, event logs, you still have to design the processes by hand or with a tool. Yes, and then I would say I was always interested not in mainstream topics. Yeah, so everybody was, let's say, questioning themselves. So, for instance, how can we obtain an event log? And I was asking myself, what are use cases, novel use cases for which we can use process mining that no one has addressed before, and that the application of process mining can gain novel insights, like, for instance, process mining on unstructured data, on video data, on time series data, just to, let's say, address novel use cases. So I would say, to come back to your question, yeah, so I'm for a long period of time involved in the BPM area. I'm from the moment one in process mining. I can also fully remember the first process mining conference, and that was 2019 in Aachen. And there were around 25 vendors. Yeah, most of them, they have been already acquired. So there are also most of the tools are used within other tool suites or have been integrated. So you see the topic is evolving, and yeah, I'm following all trends.
Yeah. Super interesting. Do you remember which kind of processes was the first one you mapped on the Excel sheet?
Yes, that was a process for BASF. And that was, let's say, a process, no, maybe, which was it exactly for that company? That was not a technical process, but I don't really remember. But I can remember that I designed, or that I draw the process very in a detailed way. Yeah, so that was around 2000. We hadn't used the concept of refinement or coarsening. Yeah, so like, for instance, what was the modeling style? So that was around 2000. Everybody that was, there were two modeling notations. The one was EPC, event-driven process chain, and the other was Petrinet. So and then there was always a fight. Yeah, which notation is better to use? Is it EPC or is it Petrinet? So is there any approach that can transform EPC to Petrinet, Petrinet to EPCs? And then I can fully remember there was a presentation by Marlon at one of the BPM conferences, and we had a lot of standards. So that was people, then XPDL, and BPMN, and so on and so on. And finally, yeah, we agreed, or not, I don't know if you agreed, but then BPMN has been used as a standard for process modeling. EPCs are no more used in the community. Petrinets are used for theoretical aspects, like for verification. And then, yes, we have process mining. So on the one hand side, there is the BPMN standard. Then we have process mining. Now there is object-centric process mining, which is, of course, are a variant of process mining. But I would say these are two directions that, yeah, have been defined based on what we've done in the last 20 years in the BPM field.
Yeah. Super interesting. I love your experience basically of process mining, process modeling, you know, from the last 20 years. It's super exciting how you experience like all the different phases of process management, so to say. And today also like AI comes into place as well. So it's still developing and growing and changing all the time. Coming back basically to your recent research topics, can you tell us a little bit more about your recent or most favorite research topic you're currently working on?
Yes, I would immediately, but I would like to say, because you mentioned AI. So before being a professor in Bayreuth, I was a professor in Kiel at the computer science department. And when I joined the department, I tried to convince my colleagues from computer science of process mining. Yeah. And then they had process mining, that's the same like data mining. What's the difference? We don't get the point. Yeah. But working in that field of the concept of a process. So what is a process? So first you do that, and then you do that, and if not that, then this one. This is not a construct known in core computer science. So for them, it was very, very challenging, really, to distill what is the selling point of process mining. And maybe that could be also the challenge why it is sometimes also challenging to sell process mining, because not having these, let's say, process ideology in mind, it's not super obvious why to use process mining and not data mining. Or then they told me, I can use machine learning techniques. I can learn, the processes from the data I don't know and use, and I don't know why to use process mining. This is something that I just wanted to mention. I know that was not the question, but that is also my experience, that for people not working in the core BPM field, it's sometimes very challenging to gain the aspect, what is really the benefit of process mining? And this is what my answer is always, that we have the end, let's say the end or the endpoint view aspect. Let's say we have a trigger, we start something, we end something, and then we have control flow, or we have some structure, that triggers and end something. And then we can, for instance, explain causalities, we can explain why some phenomena happened, and this is superior to data mining and other techniques, but it's not super obvious really for computer science guys to get the point.
Yeah, interesting. Do you think it's still today the case,
Yes.
basically, when you yeah, okay.
Of
Yeah.
course, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm now already 2 years involved with some computer science guys in a project, and this week they told me, oh, we love to have an introductory course into process mining. And I said, we are now for 2 years or 1.5 years in a project, and yes, I'm telling you every time about process mining, and you haven't get still the point what it is. Okay, what is wrong here?
But it's great. I can see that also as a potential, right? Because if you think about that, all these computer science researchers explore a completely new field of process mining as well, what they could basically also do with AI or their tech experience, I think this would be great. Or we could have some new concepts or opportunities. Or what do you think about that?
Definitely. So when my colleagues ask me, can I replace process mining by machine learning techniques? So I can use, for instance, large language models, and then I prompt my process model, and then I get out my process model. Yes, of course, you can do that. But what is really that different, let's say, pillars, how process mining can advance the AI field. So the one issue is it can bring light into a black box approach. So for instance, sometimes you do not really know how you train the process models, then you receive a result and you can't explain that. But this is what process mining can bring into. So it has really the structure, the process model, and then you can see, if I haven't done this, or these elements or these activities precede this, and this one succeed that. Oh, I haven't seen that in the data. So the one issue is really, I'm completely convinced that process mining can bring light and can bring a light approach into a black box approach. Yeah, and then also to explain some causal effects that we have. So for instance, having in mind really a classical happy path or a classical control flow view, then in the control flow, there is also an order. Yeah, so this activity and succeeding this one and that one, and then you can see, activity X can only happen if activity ABC precede them. Yeah, and so this means we can explain some activities and results. And this is also very beneficial for AI techniques, where this is on the one hand side challenging, having black box approaches, and also really to explain causality. And this is also currently a trend. Yeah, so people want to find not only correlations but causalities in the data.
Super interesting. And yeah, to dig deeper a little bit into this topic of process mining in AI, can you tell me more about like which kind of research you're currently doing in this field, and which is like the greatest or the most interesting use case you would like to share today?
Yeah, so on the one hand side, we are doing explainable process mining. So I don't know if you ever have asked yourself, why do we only receive one process model? You have an event log, or that can also be an object-centric log. But finally, what we receive is one result, one process model. Yes, of course, you can filter that, you can abstract in different directions. But the question is, why not different variants? Yeah. And therefore, we are looking into explainable process mining to really explain why this process model result from this data. Yeah, and of course, on the data, you have pre-processed this. You have abstracted it. So we have applied a lot of data quality measures. But finally, you do not explain the user why this result, result or process model result from that event log. Let me give you a concrete example. So usually we have an event log, but it could also be object-centric. That could be data redundancies, then incomplete entries or missing entries. And then we are applying a lot of data quality issues, somehow automatically, but we do not propagate this information to the final result, which means the user or the person who is, let's say, analyzing the result, she doesn't know, so what has been done with the event log, because there is always a correlation between the data quality of the event log and the final result. So if you have a high data quality, then of course the result is better. Garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, so this is, for instance, one approach on explainable machine learning or explainable process mining. And the other is a human in the loop approach. So for instance, we also asked the user, can you maybe also make some annotations, data annotation? Can you give some more additional information, share some domain knowledge in the event log, or for instance the process model, to improve the final result and also to improve the validity, so that the process model that we receive really maps or really is representative for the event log.
Okay, no, it sounds super interesting. And can you now maybe also explain like how AI is basically impacting this research, both of them?
So we are using AI. So I would say I'm using, for instance, large language models or ChatGPT every day. Yeah, so it's like already a daily tool for me, not only for let's say work. That was a side comment, but AI helps us in any direction. So for instance, to improve the data quality of the event log, also to learn some patterns from the event log. Like you see, so usually the question is, what is a representative event log? Should I take the event log from the last 3 months, from 1 year, 2 years? So what is a representative event log? And for instance, if we do not have enough data, we can create synthetic data. For this, we also use machine learning techniques. And I'm pretty sure, and also we tried large language models. So you prompt a textual description, yeah, and how can I derive a process model from the textual description? So this is something that already, let's say, ChatGPT even can. But the question is, I think we have to spend more time on the evaluation, which means how good are the results that are obtained by ChatGPT.
Yes, yeah. I totally agree. I could use this in my own work as well, I think. Yeah, asking ChatGPT to basically model the process flow would be amazing. But then basically in the next steps, you just save some time maybe in the beginning, right? By designing the process, but at the end you still need to validate it, for example, with the process owners, right? Or basically these people are responsible for the process. Yeah.
Yeah, but this is really a very interesting time. Yeah. So in which direction will we move? So will we keep with this, let's say, traditional ways of modeling, or will we some months start only prompting?
Yeah.
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 Only instead of, let's say, typing something, we're only prompting and then the system generate the process model. I don't know.
Let's see. Exactly. Sounds promising of exactly. I would like to see that more often, basically, in the real world as well. Exactly. Which also brings me basically also to my next point, Agnes, because for me it's always important basically to bridge the gap basically between research, right, and the industry. So can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the misconception, maybe, if there is, and maybe is there one, is there no misconception, and the differences between the research world and process mining in the industry?
So one, let's say not misconception, but maybe definitely there is a latency in what we are researching and what is then applied in industry. So for instance, Celonis, they apply the most simple process discovery algorithm, which is a directly follows graph. Yeah. And we have much more sophisticated discovery techniques that we apply in, I would say, in all daily business or in our work. Yeah. And this is so fascinated because it's this really the most simple one. Yeah. And also Will van der Alsch, he had a research report on, I would say, misleading constructs of the directly follows graph. So the directly follows graph that that the Celonis suite is using, they represent behavior that does not exist in reality. Yeah, but it doesn't care. Yeah, it doesn't care. So there are also theoretical approaches on the topic, and this is something also that I show to my students. Yeah, look, this is a simple algorithm, and also it allows for behavior that has not been observed in the event log, but it is sufficient, and you still can fund or start your startup, and there is also a market for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see a latency, and I can fully remember that was the Lana Labs. They were the first startup in Potsdam, and they took care about conformance checking. So conformance checking techniques are also very, very famous, or yeah, widely used. And then I don't know when it was, maybe 10 years ago, yeah, when they started their business. And I think they switched maybe very shortly to the process discovery, because they told me nobody in industry is taking care of conformance checking. So looking about the deviations between the as-is and to-be process model. So the people are or the companies are more interested in discovery. So there is definitely a latency between what we are doing in research and what is finally applied in industry. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that the industry people also think, oh, that what the researchers are doing is maybe too theoretical. Yeah. Who is interested in that? Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Maybe you don't need like the 100% reality, right? Maybe 80% is enough, basically, to have a business case, as a business value, to just understand on the surface, right? How the process looks or how can you improve it. Yeah, but it's super interesting. I didn't know that. I definitely learned something today. Exactly. Yeah.
So I don't know how it is for you when you're going to an ICPM conference. So these are one of the top tier conferences, and the people are presenting very theoretical, or at least from our point of view, it's not theoretical, but maybe for others it's super theoretical. And last year they accepted only out of, I don't know, maybe 30 papers, 26 received a weak accept, conditional accept, which means that you need a theoretical artifact. You have to evaluate it on 10 different data sets. You have to implement that. You have to show that this algorithm really performs well. So you have to really fulfill a lot of requirements to be accepted on a conference, to do a lot of work. And maybe finally it will never be applied in practice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it is, exactly. Yeah, but you really need to love the research and to love basically the work behind. I can tell by myself, I always loved working in research and publishing some papers, not on a conference, but still, yeah, it's just a different kind of work. That's true. Yeah. All right. Perfect. So thank you so much for these insights, Agnes. Very good. I would like to, because of time as well, I would like to shift to the next topic, which is women in tech or women in process mining, right? And for those listeners, I met Agnes 3 weeks ago, I think, personally also in Bayreuth, because Agnes organized a woman in process mining event at the university. And we had a lot of discussions about like women in tech or females in tech, and also like what is the difference between women in the industry, right? But also like how students are identifying this kind of gender gap, right? Of women working in tech related jobs. So yeah, maybe Agnes, maybe tell a little bit about yourself, maybe from your own experiences, right? How, because there are not that many female professors in the process mining world. So please tell us a little bit about your experience and maybe also about the gender equality at universities.
Challenging point. Yeah, so in Bayreuth, it's, I would say, a little bit more balanced. But before in Kiel, I was the only female professor around 80 men, and that was very challenging. Then when I came, I also wanted to convince them by process mining and being in core computer science, they didn't get the point. So what is process mining? But this is the other issue. But being a female, I would say fantastic job, but it's very challenging. So looking back on my career, I would say I had to work more than men, and that's obvious. So I had to work to generate higher output, and then I have 3 children. So even if you have children, you have to perform the same, and that was really, really challenging. So looking back on my career, I don't know how I get that. So I was tired, and then you had to still work and publish papers, then apply for projects, then lecture, and so on and so on and so on, and doing that like in a circle. And finally, I succeed. That was my luck, of course. But I know from a lot of female women or women that they stop their career due to they can't manage that family and job. And I know there are a lot of programs around that and supportive issues, but still there is a gap, definitely. And I would say it is very, very important for female students to have role models. Role models. So what you're doing here with your organization, and that's really excellent. Also to show students that you, of course, you can be successful in your job, and of course, but we need female role models, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this with us today in the community. I think this is very valuable. Do you think this has changed in the last couple of years now, looking back, or if it's easier basically for women to do a career, for example, in research?
Mm, I don't know. So you still there. I know there are a lot of guidelines. Like for instance, guidelines in terms having one child. Then some issues are so. Then your research career is subtracted by 2 years, which means I don't know. There are a lot of guidelines. So finally, I would say it's a little bit easier, but you have to perform
Yeah.
equally or even more than men, I would say. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
Yeah, interesting. Everybody, regardless of gender, should put in the same effort, right, to achieve the same goals. So, yeah, super, yeah, interesting to hear that as well.
And the issue is, I was, for instance, for that was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I visited a university and there were only men as
Mm-hmm.
professors. Yeah, and I
Mm-hmm.
asked them, what's going wrong here? And they told me, oh, we do not receive any female applications. Yes, and then I asked the students and the female students, and they told me, yes, of course, we are underrepresented here in this studies, and then we do not feel comfortable also, and then the question is, will I apply in a university, yeah, which is men dominated, and also where the female students do not feel, let's say, comfortable? Maybe not, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a very challenging question and it requires actions at different steps.
Yeah. This is basically coming back to the role models, right? If you need to have like a female, at least not all of them, but it helps basically to have a female role model to see basically where you could basically fill that gap in future or be in future. So I think this is definitely a valid point. And last question maybe for today, Agnes, because we're also looking at the time. What do you think, like, how could we change that, right, in future? Or how could we encourage more women basically to enter the tech field, regardless of research or industry? Do you have any
Yeah.
things you would like to share?
If I would have, let's say, the formula, I would definitely share it with you. So I can tell you what I'm doing. So for instance, we have a tiny house, which is an IoT factory, and where female student, they can come and they, let's say, see and work so they can, uh, okay, no, let's step maybe one step back. So usually females, they think we cannot fulfill a technical position. Yeah? So this is sometimes the behavior of female students, which is really completely wrong. Why not? Yeah, and then in Kiel, the female student, they told me, here my other fellows, they tell me always they are programming since 5 years or 6 years, meaning they started with the age of 13 or 14 or something like that. And we feel that we have a gap. So are you sure that we can maybe complete the bachelor studies? Yeah, so you see there are a lot of misunderstandings at different levels. So it is very important to involve the female students at different actions. So I'm also doing events at Girls Go Informatics and then Girls Days and also having a demonstrator and ask female students and then doing events like missionarying. I don't know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's really a topic where we need to definitely start from the beginning, early on, right from school, as you just said, like doing some girls' days where we basically educate young students between like 11 years old and 18 years old to find IT interesting, right? So we're also doing a lot of woman process mining with this year, for example, also at Girls' Day. And also when I was visiting you at the university, it was interesting to me because, as you know, one of the students came up to me and asked me a question. She was studying business, right, in her bachelor's, and she was asking me if it makes sense to do information management in her master's, right? And even this question, if she's like questioning herself, if this is the right path for her to go, is showing basically that we still not there yet, right? That we still need to support women to do a career in tech and to pursue this career. And it's not a tough career. It's a great career. It's an interesting career, and they can definitely do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, so we as female, we are always shy. So shy in terms of, like for instance, I can observe when in my colleagues, I don't know, somebody approach and ask, can you give an interview on a specific topic of AI? And every man of my every colleague, or then is completely convinced that he is is an expert on the topic and can give an interview. Yeah, and I by myself, I'm thinking, oh. Am I really skilled, experienced that topic, found it? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm first hesitating, yeah, and then, okay, maybe I can do the interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that there's a lot. We often tend to underestimate ourselves. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, a topic we can talk for hours, definitely. Agnes, thank you so much for this great interview.